night here at Jubilee Bridge. We are so excited that you are having church with us here. I know it's getting more and more bare to the bones here, but I'm actually really excited about it. We are getting further along into our move. We have about 7.5 weeks till we are out of here. So we've started prepping our care pastors of what the move will look like, and you'll start to hear so much more about it as we get closer and closer. But tonight, we unfortunately do not have an announcement video. We've been so busy with the move that we didn't get to film. So I'm going to give you some live announcements really quick because we still have a few things going on, and I want to keep you up to date. And I have a wonderful surprise that you are the first ones to hear about. So, that's what it means to come on a Wednesday night, is to hear some great news that's not even out yet. So you guys are going to be the first to hear about it. But really quick, ladies, if you're 18 to 30, we are having a young adults women's dinner tomorrow night, Thursday night at Mod Pizza. So if you're free, come on out at 7 o'clock to gather with other young adult women. And then young adult men, 18 to 30, they are going bowling on Friday, downtown Morgan Hill. They're having a little competition and some guy time, so if you are free, make sure you guys go out to that. That's also at 7. And then we've got Ironman breakfast this Saturday. So Pastor Adam is back. Unfortunately, tonight they're out, but they will be back for Saturday. So make sure you come out 10 a.m. men for Ironman. And then we have Sunday service, of course. Can you believe it's going to be February? Insane. Cannot believe it. But February 7th, an important day here because we are having our first moving sale, which means all of the furniture will be leaving except for the seats you're sitting in and part of the stage. Everything else we are selling on the 7th, and we are getting rid of all the youth couches. We're getting rid of a bunch of equipment, and we're getting rid of 90% of the toys. So if you know somebody that's a teacher or works at a daycare or simply families that need toys for their kids, we are getting rid of it all. And we just really want to bless our community. So make sure you guys mark that date. We will be here from 10 to 1, which will be the big moving sale. And then it's Super Bowl Sunday, which here is Jersey Day. So make sure you guys come rock in your favorite team, even though probably none of our teams are in the Super Bowl, because I don't think anybody's a Seahawks or a Patriots fan, but it's okay. But I wanted to share some really cool news, and you are the first to hear about it. So Super Bowl Sunday, not only is it Jersey Day, but we have a guest team coming in. We have the Katinas coming for you guys. And if you know who that is, you are in for a treat. So make sure you guys come on out that Sunday morning. They called us 2 days ago and we're like, we're looking for a church Sunday morning Super Bowl. Are you in? And we were like, yes, we are. So they're going to run the whole service. They're going to do worship and the message and everything, and you are the first to hear about it. So Super Bowl Sunday, do not miss service, 10 a.m. as usual, but we will be having them in the house. We're so excited about it. And the last announcement I want to give you for today is water baptisms is February 15th. So a few weeks out, it is a Sunday, and it is the last one in this building, and the first one of the year. So if you feel like it's just that time to rededicate or simply give your life to Jesus, do not miss the opportunity to. We do have 2 more scheduled this year, and when they're warm, because we would have to do it outside when we move, but we want to make sure we get 1 more in before we move. So February 15th, that morning, you can register now. I know we have 4 or 5 people already registered. Make sure you get on there, and then let's just celebrate life together and make sure that we do this thing together. Of course, with all of that, don't forget that our last Sunday here is March 22nd. So just an FYI, start marking that in your calendar. Our last Sunday here is March 22nd. We will be downtown March 29th, further going. We will start getting you a video of where you're parking, where you're going, all these things. We have a lot of stuff coming up, but we appreciate it for you guys sticking with us. We have been so grateful for the progress on the land, documents. The architects have been working around the clock for us. It's been a huge blessing, so we're moving along, moving forward, but we got to break down what we're doing here and move forth. I'm really, really excited to go downtown, and I hope you are too. Being in a place that anybody could walk by and simply walk through our doors is just an opportunity that God is simply putting in our hands right now. it would not be where we're going without his blessing. So we're really excited about it. But of course, with any type of blessing, how about we take some offering tonight? So I'm going to call up our speaker from last week, Pastor Isaac.
Thank you, Pastor Hannah. For today's offering, I just want to share a little story which happened almost 17 years ago. The verse obviously is, God loves a cheerful giver. Giving you can do with so many different emotions, but something about cheerful giver. And if you actually look, there's a verse in Luke which many people quote, give and it shall be given unto you. But actually if you go read the verse, the chapter will have nothing about money. It will actually be talking about giving, showing mercy, being kind, and so many different things. And the basic intent, if you read the verses, is it'll be telling, give with zero expectations. It'll be showing mercy to somebody who doesn't deserve mercy, being good to somebody who doesn't deserve good. It'll go along that way. So giving can be done in different ways, but today I just want to share a little story which actually happened in our lives in 2009. I have 2 daughters. My elder one, she was 4 years old that time, and we had a birthday party for her. So that time we were in Bangalore, India, and so we invited all the kids in the apartment where we are living for her birthday party on I think it was a Saturday evening. And we also invited one particular lady who used to come and help Rebecca. She was almost like a single mom. She had a husband, but the husband was of no help. I think he was a drunk. So she was doing some 3 or 4 jobs to raise her son. And we made sure that we had invited her to come along with her kid also for the birthday party. So it was on a Saturday evening, and unfortunately, she couldn't come on time because obviously she was having 2-3 jobs. So she came almost towards the end of the party. But what happened is, we already had the party. We had all the other kids come in. They came in. They gave the gifts to Debbie, 4 years old. She was excited to get it. We had the food and everything. And towards the end, we had packed all these return gifts for all the kids who came. So we gave them all out, and we ran out of the return gifts and then this particular person whom we invited, she came with her son for the party, and we felt so bad because if there's one person we really wanted to treat well, was that person that day. And we ran out of return gifts. We were already hosting the kids, so we can't run and get anything. And we ran out of ideas. What is it we're going to give to this kid? And that's when we remembered Debbie, my daughter. Somebody had gifted her sometime previously a fancy pencil box. That's something fancy which you couldn't get in a local store. I'm not sure where to get that. It's a fancy pencil box, but she never used it. It was still unwrapped. And Debbie had that. And that's the only thing which came to Rebecca's mind. So what she did is, probably we'll put this in a return gift bag and give it to this kid, because we don't want to send that boy empty. But before we do that, we wanted to check with Debbie because it is her thing, and she was really excited about it. So we called Debbie aside and said, hey, Debbie, we ran out of return gifts. There is this fancy pencil box. This is the only one thing we have now to give. Is it okay that I give that? I still remember how Debbie responded to it. She didn't even take a second to respond. Immediately, with a big smile, she said, okay, I'm good. And I was so happy when I saw her do that. Because that impression is what stuck to me, how she responded. I thought maybe you'll have to tell her something else to maybe bribe her into it to agree. But we did nothing. We need to tell her nothing. She says, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we can give it. Cool. So we put that, we gave it to the kid, and everyone was happy. The party got over. So later that night, Debbie started unwrapping all the gifts she got from all the people who came in. And I was just watching her do all that, and she was excited. And when she unwrapped one gift, you won't believe it was the exact pencil box that she had given away. And the best part, it was twice the size. It was the exact same thing. And I tell you, this is not a pencil box I could get in a local shop or anything. That's the reason we wanted to check with her, because I could not replace it for her. And it was the exact same thing, twice the price, and twice the size. And that is what I wanted to tell you. God loves a cheerful giver. If you actually read that, if you do it out of a cheerful heart, that is something that pleases God. There's something about it, just like how it pleased me as a father when I saw my kid say yes with a cheerful heart. Still, it's almost 17 years, and still I remember that. There's something about a cheerful heart. And that's what I believe many of you brought here what you're offering, not only with money, but your time and your efforts and so many other things, not only to the church. I know you're contributing to the community, to the people around you, but each time when you do it with a cheerful heart, I can know that your Heavenly Father is so pleased. Amen. Loving Heavenly Father, thank you for these beautiful people who come here on a Wednesday evening, Master God, to spend their time because they hunger for your word. They want to have more of your word. That's the reason they came in here. And they also have their offering, and I believe each one of them, your children, are brought it out of a cheerful heart. And I believe as you, as the Heavenly Father, are pleased with them, Master God. So we pray that your name would be glorified, and whatever we are giving for this church in money, in volunteer hours, in so many different ways, I pray that you would use it through this church, and many would be blessed in Morgan and Gilroy in the South County through the ministry of this church. May your name be glorified. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We don't have an announcement video, so now we get to, just do the offering. It's a little awkward without the video. I like the video. But yeah, so I'm actually really excited because this isn't a Bible study I feel like I had to make up or sound professional or sound like a Bible whiz for anybody. This actually is my Bible study for an issue that I had to deal with, a situation that I'm still dealing with. I'm never going to say I'm over anything, but it was someone who challenged me, and I needed answers, so I started diving into it. And then I felt about a few weeks ago, I was like, well, can I use this, God? It's like a cop-out. I already have this kind of set up. And he gave me a few more things to say, and he said, like, this isn't just for you. You just have to understand this for everybody else. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. So this title, if you like taking notes, there's a title. If you don't like taking notes, forget it. Forget any of that. But this is called All In, ... again, with a question mark. Because just because it's a new year, everyone starts the new Christian motto of like, I'm going to be a good Christian this year, or I'm going to be a good husband, brother, dad, something. It's a new year. And everybody wants to start fresh. And sometimes when you say things again and again and again, people start questioning you like, really? You're going to do that again? Like, didn't you try that last year? And you ended awful. Like, you were burnout last year, actually. I'm surprised you're still in church last year. And not me, but actually, no. In some ways, yeah, like you start the year so strong, and things happen throughout the year. So, and I like the theme all year, because when you say you're all in, some people are going to look at you and say, really, here they go again. We're going to get the holy, righteous person for a few weeks, and then tax season's going to come, and they're right back to who we know they are. They're back to negative Nancy, because they have to pay Uncle Sam, which actually, my favorite person to call out is actually not here, so I have to pick on someone different. It's fine. So for this, this actually started because I was with a mentor, someone I look up to, and someone who I was doing a yearly check-in, kind of preview of the year, kind of how I was doing last year. They could be honest with me, I could be honest with them. It was one of those meetings. And while I was talking to them, I said I wanted to do this would be really cool. I want to challenge myself to do this. And they said, oh, good, I feel like this would be good for you because last year you weren't in a place to do any of that. And for me, being a hyper-competitive brain, when someone labels me as something as that I didn't feel like I was that bad, but for them to say I was doing that bad, it kind of got to me. Because it's like, I didn't feel like I was doing that bad, but for whatever reason you thought, I gave you a few reasons to create this image for you, and I gave you the opportunity to call me this. So maybe it's on me, maybe there was something, or there's some truth in it, as much as I really didn't like to hear some of these things. And so I kind of took that and put it in the back of my head. I didn't want to really deal with it. It was too much to unpack, so I just left it alone. And then not too long later, there was, I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but I was going through life, and someone they mentioned something, and they said, oh, you're not this, you're not that type of person. And I was like, I'm trying to be. Like, I feel like I am that person, but maybe I'm not. And I was like, oh, there goes that feeling again. I'm not mad at the person, really. I'm just more mad that I'm feeling that anger, bitter feeling again right now towards this person. Not that person said anything mean to me, but I'm feeling this emotion again. And so I check it again, and I just bookmark it and say, all right, that's noticeable. We'll deal with that again, because I really don't want to unpack this at all. And then a little bit later, we're talking with some other people, and I was talking about my goals again. And they were like, that's great, but you're not in the season to deal with that. And I was like, all right, dude, I'm sick of you telling me what I can't do. I feel like I am in the season. And then I started like getting mad. And then I said, well, maybe actually I'm not in that season because I'm getting pretty upset right now. And so it was a nice little reality check. So I kind of, what I do with most things, I go hide in my car and I go complain to God about it. That's my like go-to. No one knows, but I love my car time because I complain to God more than I talk to anybody else. This is my way of tweeting to God. I don't go on Facebook or any Instagram to talk about my feelings or people, my close friends don't even know how I feel. I just bring that up with the dude, the manufacturer, and I deal with it with him because I don't want to burden anybody else. That's how I feel. I don't want to burden other people with my drama or my like not dealt with issues. So I was talking to him a bunch and trying to say like, all right, it seems like there's an issue. I keep getting mad when people are labeling me as something that I feel like I'm not. What is this? Like, I'm trying to do this X, Y, and Z for you. I feel like I'm called to do this. This pastor told me I'm supposed to do this. But every time I start trying to be that person, I'm getting shot down because everybody else's opinions reminds me of everything I've been doing up to this point. And I don't feel like I could get any traction on this Christian journey of my purpose or whatever you want to call it. I just don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with this. And so, again, he leaves me on red. Just lets me dwell with this. And so I go in every day. If you follow me on the Bible app, I've gone through 1 million different Bible plans a day, trying to just, okay, maybe it's this. What about this? No, it's not that feeling. Okay, why am I feeling jaded by this person? Or why am I feeling dissed? Why do I feel like someone's not honoring me? And I said, all right, well, since God's not getting back to me, let me try and dissect this myself a little bit. And I started going back to sports, or even back when I was young with my own family. And I started to notice that anytime someone has put a label on me that I don't feel like I'm dealing with or I'm struggling with, I start to get upset. Maybe I got that from my parents. I know they're similar in that. My dad, if he's watching tonight, anytime you call him something and he's not, he didn't really like it. So maybe it's hereditary. And I said, well, I don't know, because I don't get as bothered, but I do get bothered. So let me look at another line of train of thought on this. So I go back to sports, and anytime I felt like when I was coaching, I would get to a certain level of knowledge, I didn't feel like I would get the label of respect that came with what I knew, and I felt jaded. It's not like those coaches said anything bad to me. They never said anything bad. It was, I felt that I've done enough work inside my brain. I just haven't given you reasons to give me that title. I just expect you to read my mind and say, oh, he's done all this work. He's this now. And but I'm so to myself that I just expect people to see like what's going on in my brain. And so I was like, okay, so maybe it's coaching. And then I think of just growing up in high school and in college, trying to be just a better friend. In high school, I used words a lot that would hurt a lot of people. In elementary school, I said a lot of things that hurt a lot of people. In college, I said a lot of things that hurt a lot of people. Last week, I said something that hurt someone. I don't know. It happens. And a lot of my, I guess, anger has come from like my perception of your perception of me. And this is where I started to get to. I'm assuming what you're assuming about me, and now I'm pissed. Now I don't think you respect me as a person, or if it's a leader in the church, I don't think you respect me as a Christian, or you don't respect my authority. You don't see me for who I think I am. Because I spend a lot of time with God on my own. I do a lot of this work on my own. I grill myself more than I grill anybody else in my life. For as much as I say to people, I say 10 times more to myself that no one's ever going to see. No one's really going to know anything about me. I don't vent to people. But people don't see this. So they've seen the few actions that we've had in person that they've just encountered me with. And they judge me off those actions. And I'm like, I'm so much of a better person now if you were to just look at me differently. And it's like, well, why don't I act differently in front of them? They're basing things off data that I've given them, where I felt like I've fixed this, or I've done the work, I've repatched it. If you're a computer nerd, I've patched myself, I've updated my firmware, but no one else knows this. So I'm entering tomorrow with this updated firmware, but everyone still sees the laggy computer that I was last week, and people are judging me off of that. And so I start getting to this train of, I'm mad at you. You didn't say anything mean to me, but I'm pissed at you. You don't know that, but I'm furious. And I got to calm myself down, and I try and say, oh, it's this, or I'm not tithing, or no, it's just, I'm not, I'm so busy about other people's opinions and less concerned about what God has to say about me today and tomorrow. I keep basing what I want to be on what I used to be, and it roadblocks me. I've noticed the past few years. Not in like a negative sense. I'm not in a spiral. I'm not dealing with crazy depression, and not to say that whoever isn't like, it's serious, but I'm not right now. But I feel like I'm still dealing with the consequences, like I'm some no good, good for nothing Judas sinner. Like I don't know why I feel like I'm getting roadblocked at every point. And throughout this Bible study that I've had, kind of with myself, trying to find answers, it is really just it's me, like stopping myself from doing what God wants me to do. It's not anyone else, because their opinions of me, they're just their opinions. I weigh them so much in my brain because I want people to see me as this and that. But when they see me as the old me, it's hard for me to be the new me, or the one that Jesus needs me to be. So I find myself in this loop of just, I'm cool and then I'm mad. I'm cool for a while and then I'm mad again. So it kind of brings me to this theme that we have, which is all in. And so, of course, I was like, oh, it's a great time to go all in for Jesus. Let's do the Christian thing. I tried. I don't do the vision board stuff, but in my mind, that's what I'm doing. If you do, great. I don't. And so I was trying to think of what's a good example of someone that's all in, or what are some examples of all in? So the easy examples are going to be like your gamblers. And I'm mentioning gambling. It's a sin. Sue me. I'm talking about gambling. It's okay. So gamblers, they are really good at looking towards a possible future full of promise with the reality that it might never come. And gamblers bank on that sentiment, that they see this future of all this money that could be, with the reality that it might not come, but it's so much worth going after what could be than it is going without it. You see a lot of people, professional gamblers, they really know when to start putting more chips on the table. They know when to start, all right, this feels like the moment I should go, I go all in. I should push all my chips in. Like this is the hand. This is like, I'm flowing with this match. I'm flowing with everything. Let's just do it. It doesn't make sense to everybody else. And you see all these videos, if you follow gambling sports on ESPN. If you don't, then congrats. You're a better Christian than me. I do. So you get to these points, these tense moments where you really should play it safe. But these people, for some reason, in this moment, it's rationalized in their head to just send it, to just put everything into this one moment, and it pays off. These people make millions of dollars. Am I jealous? A little bit. But they've created this mental fortitude that when it gets hard, that's fine, but when it makes sense, they're going to do it. And they're not going to bank their opinion on the person next to them at the table giving them the side eye because they made an interesting move, or, oh, they folded too early, or, oh, they just know when to walk away. Like, really good gamblers know when maybe it's not their time to play their hand and let other people fight. They know when it's time to just put their cards, push them away, and say, let me rebound. You don't have to engage in every fight. I really do respect that about them, because I feel like sometimes I always have to engage. Yes, gambling in itself, sin, blah, blah, blah. You can learn a lot from really good gamblers when it comes to our faith, because really what our faith is, it's a gamble. There's no guarantee on anything. We're banking on this maybe tomorrow. That's not happening, but there's nothing tangible for us to hold on to. There's no facts for tomorrow. There's no facts for the next 30, 40 minutes of what's going to happen. Like, we're imagining this hopeful tomorrow, but we have to deal with today. And just like gamblers, they see this future that could be good, and it could not be, but they're cool with that, because what could be is so much more than what is at the moment. And so we started treating our faith, or our perception of who we are, like that. We start, or at least me, I'll say you guys, but it's really more me during tonight, because this is my Bible study. I'm sharing it with you guys. You get an insight on my brain. I start getting somewhere, really. And a group of generational gamblers, or I think the best gamblers of all time, I would consider are the disciples. It sounds crazy to call them gamblers, but really in reality, that's what they were. They saw this random man walk up to them and said, I like your life. It's great. You should leave it and then just come with me. And they said, yes. Is that weird? Absolutely. None of us would do it. I don't care how great of a Christian you think you are. In no scenario are you following a random man and leaving your good life, leaving your wife, kids, job, everything. You're just not going to do it in today's time. So these guys really wrote the... Is that me? No. Okay. Maybe it heard me. Yeah, so Jesus comes, and he just picks these people off the road. They're not hitchhikers. They have established lives. They're doing things, and they follow this guy that they don't know based on this feeling of, okay, yeah, no, this makes sense. This is cool. Yeah, let's do this. And even Judas wasn't Judas when he did all the Judas decisions. He was Judas then, and God still picked him up. So everybody's banking, the disciples, all 12 of them, on this mystery lotto prize of whoever this person is, this feels right, let's do it. They were so all in that something we're going to talk about too, that it led to their demise. It led to their death. It led to them being so all in that they didn't know what out looked like. They got so invested into this feeling, this thought of this who they are now, that there was no go back option for them. There was no undo this moment. Peter wasn't going to go back fishing. Peter was going to eventually die the way he died because he is who he is now because Jesus called him to be it. He wasn't going to go back to anything else he was doing. He fully bought into who Jesus needed him to be now. And all the disciples had this great, well, almost all of them. 11 out of 12 was good odds. 11 out of 12 of them had these really good stories. They did all this stuff in the Bible. They talked to all these people. And to what? Know that they're going to die? Peter alludes to it. There's only 2 disciples that were in the Bible, like this would happen to them. Everything else, it's historically like agreed upon. We're going to go through each disciple and kind of what that agreed upon outcome was. But just so you know, there was only 2 disciples that are pronounced dead in the Bible according to scriptures. One of them is James, son of Zebedee, in Acts 12:2. We could toss that one up and just read it real quick. We'll just get through some of these. We're not going to live here, but we are going to live in Acts. If you like bookmarks and living in a book, we're going to be in Acts a lot, so just know that. Acts 12:2, it says, then he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. That's very simple. Sweet. The Bible confirms, yeah, James died. So that's the first one. The other, we're not going to read it, but everyone knows it. It's Judas. It didn't really end the greatest of ways for him, but he decided to self-quit the game. So those are only 2 people that are in the Bible. It tells you they passed away. Everyone else, it might allude to it, or they just don't mention it at all. It's hard to keep track of all 11 individual lives at that point. So I'm going to go through kind of each disciple, and we're kind of just break down. If you don't know how they died, we're going to kind of, it's a little interesting how some of them went away. And again, like I said, this is all historically agreed stuff. If you want to challenge us in any way, do your own research. I did mine. This is the summary of what I found. If you don't like that version, find your own version for why Andrew died. The internet's huge. You could find a bunch of answers. But like I said, a lot of these names, they will not be in the Bible if you try to go look for them. I asked Pastor Adam if this is even okay to talk about. He said yes, so this is cool. So Simon, like I was talking about, Peter, he was one of the most prominent disciples of Jesus Christ and one of the most important leaders of the early church. Some Catholic traditions even claim he was the first pope. If you agree with that, sweet. If you don't, sweet. It's fine. It's just, I'm giving facts. It's Bible study night. I'm not here to be motivational. I'm here to give facts. I'm studying the Bible with you. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that he suffered somewhat of a similar fate to Jesus. Peter was crucified, but with a twist. It's agreed upon that he was hung, but upside down, because they wanted to crucify him the same way, but not dishonor Jesus. And all these guys, by the way, historically, you don't die for lying. That's a big part of why these guys were getting picked off one by one, is there's so much power in this truth that we're talking about. The Romans could not do this. We couldn't have these guys like getting all these new disciples. And the way they were crucified kind of proved that point of there's no way we could allow these guys to live because they might be right. And the Romans didn't like those odds. That was their gamble, is they really didn't like the odds that these guys were right. Because all the evidence at that point was kind of leading to the fact that they were right. That's a scary thought for when you have this group of beliefs growing up, then you find out you're completely wrong. It's a tough thing to digest. So that is Peter and how he went away. The next one is going to be Andrew. So this is Peter's brother. Allegedly, he suffered it's a similar death, but the origin of the traditions or stories, they're not credible, but they're kind of erratic. They're kind of everywhere. So, like I said, please look up and try to find out your own information on that. But according to tradition, Andrew was murdered by crucifixion in a Greek city of Patras around 60 AD. Like his brother, Peter, Andrew didn't consider himself worthy to die the same way as Jesus, which is why he was also crucified, because he wanted to honor Jesus, but he didn't want to dishonor him and die the same way. And it's funny that they're brothers and they kind of had similar fates in that sense. James is someone we talked about already. He's one of the first groups to suffer and one of the only ones documented in the Bible itself. Scholar believes that James was killed in Jerusalem around 44 AD. And James, this really depends. A lot of scholars argue that I've seen. There's a million different links. Is this the same James? Is it not? You could choose. I don't know. Talk to God about it. But regardless of what it is, James is only mentioned twice. He's only mentioned a few times, this James. So that leads some people to believe that this might be a different James because he's not carrying the same weight as the other big J. So, like I said, the church traditionally claims that they're the same Jesus, but modern scholars, they're starting to disagree because people like to disagree nowadays. But traditions say, for the most part, that he was pushed from a pinnacle of a temple he was preaching at. So while he was doing God's work, they just pushed him, and then they pushed him off a hill. That's how James died. And then he doesn't really get talked about, and that's a sad way to go out. That's just, dude. Like, some of this is interesting to me. I didn't know how all 12, or there's honorary members, but we'll get to those guys in a little bit. This is just interesting. And then there's another quote. It says, a theologian who lived in the 2nd and 3rd century allegedly recorded James' death on the 12th apostle of Christ, which is a book. You could look it up. Pretty much most of this is on Amazon now. You could probably read it for free on Audible. And it says, and James, when preaching in Jerusalem, was stoned to death by the Jews and was buried there besides the temple. So that is another point of view of how James died. And we go on to Philip. Very early on, Christians confused Philip the apostle with Philip the evangelist from the book of Acts. So some people can't say for sure which account they're referring to. For Philip. Why did I say Philip? Oh, I was looking at another word. But essentially, there's no real answer on how Philip died. But the date of it was around 80 AD in that world. So Philip was doing his thing for Christ for a few decades after Jesus was crucified and then rose from the grave. Bartholomew is the coolest name out of all of them to me. Some stories might be exaggerated, but like many apostles, there's several ways it could have happened. The most popular and prolific one is that he was beheaded. There's actually a cool. Can you put up that one teal graphic? So a lot of sites, they have these not cool symbols because they're obviously not cool, but they're kind of ways to show the different, really ways of torture they tried to silence Christ and silence the word. The more dramatic it was, that dude was probably speaking some hard truths that people really didn't like, which is why we'll get to the other guys that really got it the worst. they were saying the most to everybody. So Bartholomew, I just really like that name. We were actually doing a game show last night. It was, well, okay, one, we lost. I have to deal with that emotion still because we got destroyed, and I'm not good with losing. I was very upset the entire night. Half the team is here, so it's those two and Hannah, and good for them. We lost by 17,000 points. Yeah. I'm not doing too well with losing, so pray for me on that. But basically, I only bring this up because instead of putting my name, I was going to put Bartholomew, and the game host was going to have to pronounce me as Bartholomew for the entire game show, and I didn't. I got scared. Now that we lost, I should have done it anyways because it would have been the only time I had fun. Other than that, we were getting host, so I guess good for them. Check. All right, and now we're on to Thomas. This is 7 out of 12. If you're keeping numbers, this is 7 out of 12. I did this actually only for me. I'm keeping track. So this is 7 out of 12 of them. This is Apostle, infamously known as Doubting Thomas. Fairly straightforward surrounding his death. The Acts of Thomas, another book, says that he was murdered in India where he was stabbed with spears on the 3rd of July or however their setup worked then. That's kind of like an agreed number and date. It says he was pierced with a lance in India, which is bottom third one on the right. If you don't know what a spear looks like, it's a long, pointy stick of death. There's really nothing else that's describing the Apostle Thomas's death regarding that. The next one is going to be Matthew. So Matthew, the 8th one. There are several conflicting accounts of Matthew's death. Clement of Alexandria quotes Hercules, Herculean. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Jeez. One of the earliest commentators on the New Testament as saying that Matthew died naturally. This was one of the few times I was like, oh, sweet, this is great. He actually got to go in a good way. Let's see. There's other stories, though, that might disagree with that. It says there was scenes of his labor in Ethiopia, in which later country he suffered martyrdom, where he died. He was slain, basically. It's a fancy word for he was just slain. Being slain around 60 AD. So some say he lived and went to sleep, and someday he died just like the rest of his early brothers at that point, disciples. And then we get to Jude. Traditionally, it was believed he died in Syria on a missions journey with Simon the Zealot, but it's unclear how reliable some of that story is. But I guess tradition is that he died while on missions work. Another one, Simon the Zealot, the one he was on a trip with. The earliest records didn't come out until like really far after his death. No one really knew for a really long time how Simon the Zealot died. You probably don't even know much about Simon the Zealot. It's so there was a little controversy, and then finally they got some stuff together. In the 5th century, he said Liberia, he might have passed away. The book, the Golden Legend, says he died in Persia in 65 AD. So no one really knows how Simon passed away, but they have an agreed time slot of when he passed away. And this is all about like 60s to 80 AD. So they all really lived around the same era. And then there was just this hard push against them. Judas, I'm not going to go over Judas. You should read the book. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Judas did bad things. Judas, he took care of himself, his own. And then John. This one's my favorite. That's egotistical. John's my favorite because it's me. And John, regarded as one of the only apostles to die of old age, argued because one of the other disciples claims they died of old age, but John traditionally is one of the only ones that died of old age. And this one is probably the most firmly established one out of all them because he was John Beloved. He's the guy. He's the self-proclaimed coolest one of the group, and the fastest. He's the guy. He's the one that Jesus was next to at the Last Supper, which By the way, that painting that you traditionally see is so wrong. Nothing about that is right. If you have that as your screensaver, you're good. You could take that one off. It's not even close to accurate. I was so disheartened when I found this out. Because I like the main photo you find, but I found out that's not even close to how they sat. It's like in a weird, like C shape. It's not how it portrays. But yeah, so John obviously died of natural causes, but he was also one that he wrote a lot. That's a lot of the Bible we read. Shout out my boy John. And here's your bonus ones. If you didn't know, there's a disciple named Matthias. I've only met one Matthias, and shout out him. He's a great songwriter right now. But bonus, Matthias. So he wasn't one of the original ones, but after Judas did Judas things, they kind of, I'll just say nominated. They got Matthias. He's in the group. Matthias is in the band. So Matthias becomes in place of Judas to go and preach the word. And then the last bonus one, he's not technically a disciple, but he is the one that carries a ton of weight when it comes to the Bible, and that is Saul and or Paul. And this is the one that the Bible studies kind of built around. The others were just fun fact if you didn't know about the disciples, since they aren't mentioned too much in the Bible and how they died. I just wanted to share that because I think it's cool information to just learn history in that sense. But really, all of this is built around Saul and Paul. So like I said, he wasn't one of the 12, but he's universally considered one of the apostles, one of Jesus's worker bees. Paul, for me, is, I think, everything, not pre-crazy Paul, but how Paul handled himself during the change, that immediate switch in his life. I think that's who I genuinely, I think I try to be. I fall short on it a lot, but the more I read about it, especially the last few weeks, I think that's really more the mindset I want to really have when it comes to my faith and going out and doing all these things for God, even though I may have this past of saying this or doing this or being with them or blah, 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 blah. Paul is that, in a sense, perfect example for me. But a little bit about Paul. Saul of Tarsus, he was around Jerusalem area. He didn't come from like some crazy off area. That's believed he was born around there, around like 5 AD. There's some debates, there's some arguments. I like some of them. Some of them sound wrong. Whether he was raised in Jerusalem or not, or his birthplace. Like I said, you can read it for your own, but I do have Acts 22:3. If you want to pop that one up, that you could base your own answer off that one at some point. Oh, sweet. 22. Did I put that there? This might be user error because I put all this in. So. Oh, okay. All right. It's my fault. It's my bad. That's me. Sorry, everybody. But basically, look up there. It kind of refers to him being probably born in Jerusalem. If you want to argue that with someone on Facebook, go ahead. But it's something I didn't even know that there was a debate about where he was born. But Saul, he was a menace towards the church. If you don't know how bad this guy was, he was probably one of the worst people towards the church. Actually, I didn't give this one to Noah or myself when I put all these verses in, but it's Acts 9, and the first thing it says, this is the NLT. A lot of these verses you read are in the New King James Version. I'm trying to read this year the whole Bible through the New King James Version. I did it through the NLT just because it was easy for my brain to get, but I know it's not always what the exact, like the closest translation could be, so that's why a lot of these verses are that. But the NLT version, I kind of like how dramatic it makes it sound. It says, meanwhile, Saul was uttering threats with every breath, and he was eager to kill the Lord's followers. He hated everybody so much in the church, he couldn't wait to kill them. He was biting at the chomp to just off people who thought about Jesus in any shape or form. In Acts 8:3, yes. Oh, yes. Okay. I can't do something right. This is great. Acts 8:3, it says, as for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering every house and dragging off men and women, committing them to prison. I only reiterate that verse to show that Paul was not a good guy when it came to church business. He wasn't the person you would want leading a sermon on any given Sunday. This is a bad dude at this point. And well, if you don't know, if you guys do know, he was on his way to Damascus to arrest, guess what, Christians. He was on his way to do a deed that he has in his heart. It's to make sure everybody in the Christian faith is suffering. He just, for whatever reason, he has beef with them. I don't really know why, but he made it his life's mission up to this point to have beef with everybody in the church. And on his way to Damascus, Saul was confronted by the very one he was persecuting. And there's actually 3 different times in Acts, in 9, 22, and 26, it kind of brings it up. The first one, when it gets brought up, the story of his first encounter with God, it was more Luke illustrating Paul. This is a guy you probably should read about. I'm just explaining to you who this guy is. The second time, he was speaking to a Jewish crowd and kind of giving his street cred version. We'll read about in 22, like, hey, I got street cred to say this right now. This is who I am. And then the third time in 26, he's speaking to a king. So it's a little more formal in the way he's speaking than the other versions you hear it for. But it is mentioned 3 times in the book of Acts. So if we go to Acts 9, 3 through 9, it says, we're just going to read through this really quick. We're not going to sit here too long, but it says, as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, Lord? Then the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against, it is hard, well, wait, go back. That was funny the way that was worded. Like I said, New King James, I'm forcing myself to do this. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. I'm going to assume what that means. So he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Then the Lord said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. Didn't really leave him with too much instructions on that one. And the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but they didn't see anybody. Then Saul arose from the ground, and when his eyes were open, he didn't see anybody. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, neither ate or drank. This must have been really interesting for him, because while he's going through this existential crisis, was that how you pronounce it? His boys, who also agree with him in his viewpoints, are kind of confused why he took his foot off the gas pedal for a little bit. So they just took him and just sat him. I like how it mentions 3 days. The number 3 is very common for this stuff. For something to die away and something become born. So he's sitting there for 3 days kind of contemplating his own thought process, his own beliefs at this point. And in Acts 22, so we'll go to 22, 6 through 11. Like I said, this is getting explained to, he's speaking to a Jewish crowd now. He's trying to brag to them a little bit. It says, now it happened, as I journeyed and came near Damascus about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me. And I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So I answered, who are you, Lord? And he said to me, I'm Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid. That didn't get mentioned in the last one. But they did not hear the voice of him who spoke to me. This is interesting that he just mentions the word afraid now. Luke didn't mention that in the first version of this story, but now he himself is saying, oh, the dudes around me, they were scared. Something happened, and no one could explain this shift, but something happened, so I have to write that they were afraid. I have to let you know this. And then in 22, 22, or 26, can you go 26, 12 through 18? Or, yeah, did I read 22? I did, right? This one, right? 10. So go back to 10. Thank you, Noah. I appreciate you, buddy. So I said, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord asked for me, arise, go into Damascus, and there you'll be told all things. If this sounds redundant, I'm sorry, but I'm just explaining this so you can see that there's 3 totally different versions of how this gets explained in Acts Bible study. The Lord said to me, arise and go into Damascus, and there you will be told all things which are appointed for you. And since, in verse 11, and since I could not see for the glory of that light, being led by the hands of those who were with me, I came into Damascus. And then this is going to be Acts 26. So this is where he starts getting a little formal, and he's like a police report. You're reenacting the situation, but now he's in this area. While thus occupied, we're already off to a great start. He's obviously speaking to somebody who needs him to be fancier, right? So while thus occupied, I was journeying to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests. At midday, O king, like I said, he's talking to a king, along the road, I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shining around me and those who journeyed with me. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice speaking to me, saying in Hebrew language, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So I said, who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. That's one of the only phrases that stay consistent in every single version of this, in all three versions. And in verse 16 it says, but rise and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to make you a minister and a witness, both of those things which you have seen and of the things which I will yet reveal to you. 17, I will deliver you from the Jewish people as well from the Gentiles, to whom I now send you. 18, to open their eyes in order to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith in me. 19, then Jews from Antioch in 19. You guys don't know. So I could see the next verse. That's why I'm kind of like waiting. So sorry if you guys aren't reading ahead, but I'm reading the next one up here. Then Jews from Antioch and Iconium. Yeah, Iconium came there, and having persuaded the multitudes, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing him to be dead. So this is the Paul in our story that I'm going to kind of dwell on for a little bit. So this guy hates Christians. And in the first story, yeah, this is Paul. Second story, guys, I talked to Jesus, I swear, right? And then in the third one, when he's trying to recite this to a king to kind of, prove who he is, all of a sudden he talks about this mission he's getting commissioned to do. He starts using language he hasn't used in any of the other two stories. This is the first time he starts saying, well, God told me I have to do this. God is going to lead me somewhere where I really don't see where I'm going. And it's funny that he blinded his eyes as the first thing, because the first thing we do is see that life around us doesn't make any sense. So first thing he did for Paul, he took that option away from him. And he's telling him, hey, I'm going to have you do something. It's not really going to make sense, and I'll give you the rest of it later. I just need you to start going and doing it. And Paul, for 3 days, is now going to start questioning everything in himself, like, why did he tell me to do this? Out of all people, I should not be the guy probably going to talk to people about the guy I want to kill. But like I said, this is exactly who God would use in all of the story. This is the perfect candidate for this. It doesn't make sense to us, but for some reason, God was like, no, this guy is great. He's going to lead so many good sermons. And even in the face of persecution, he was still all in. This person who was as all out as you probably could be in a matter of 3 days becomes someone who is all in and on fire for God. And this is not going to make sense to anybody else around him at this point, but it's even to the point in Acts 14:9. It says, yeah, they're stoning this dude, and he's still like, yeah, okay, so I'm on the other side of this now. This is a little interesting and weird, but no, I heard from the big guy. I'm just going to keep listening. I don't know what this means, but the big guy told me something. Let me just keep going. He said he'll reveal the rest to me later, so surely this will make sense, right? And then in 2 Corinthians, finally, we're out of the book of Acts. You're welcome. Sorry. So in 2 Corinthians 11:25 and 26, it says, 3 times, again, the number 3, if you enjoy numbers, 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked, a night and a day, and I have been in the deep. 26, and verse 26, in the deep, in journeys often, in perilous waters, in perils of robbers, of countrymen, Gentiles, in the city, in the wilderness, in the sea, among false brethren. He's just basically saying, dude, I am going through it. But I think something told me to keep going, and I don't know what it is. I don't have much evidence to back this up right now. The only evidence he gave me was blindness, but he told me to go do this. So I think I'm going to go keep doing this. And I like these verses because it shows, yeah, you get judged on Instagram and Facebook, but this dude's getting like stones thrown at him. So I think you're in a way better spot if you are struggling with dealing with opposite opinions of Jesus. You're not getting stoned and left out to sea. You're just dealing with mean people on Facebook. It's not that bad when you when you really start thinking about it. But like I said, this is a Bible study, and these are questions that I had for me, but also questions I want you guys to think about for not just this month, but the rest of this year, really. So what does that all in, I guess, look like for you? Because you might be doing really well, and your chips are like 80% in. But what does it look like to put 10 more percent in, or 20 more percent in? What does it look like for you to push a little harder towards your purpose and your calling? What are some, like Paul was dealing, you obviously, I hope you don't deal with any of those persecutions, but in the event you do get yourself into some people that don't agree with you, do you foresee any of those challenges? Like, what are some of those things you think you're going to have to deal with? So for me, growing up, as much as I tried to flip my life around for God, people would always remind me, well, John, you say all this stuff. There's no way you could talk about God. It's you say all this. And it's like, well, I feel like I should change. But the old perception of you is still going to be lingering around. Your old habits are going to be lingering around. If you're still in bad relationships, they're going to be lingering around still after this. Just like when Paul, he had his encounter with God, even his boys around him were a little confused and scared, like, what is this? It doesn't mention that their hearts changed at all. Nothing is mentioned about those guys. It just talks about Paul's heart being changed. And for them, it must be weird saying the ringleader of our operation is all of a sudden in depression. He's going crazy. Guys, we have to do something because I think he lost it. That's what they're thinking. They're scared for their boy. They're scared for Paul that he might have just gone crazy. But in Paul's head, no, he had an encounter with this one sky guy that he doesn't really know what this is, but he got told to go preach a word, and he does it. And everybody around him, none of this makes sense. This is the worst example of growing. There was no growth, it was a switch. And in a season, or especially this year, where I don't think we have time for progression. We need people to switch. We need people to be on fire. We need people in the church to actually do something about things. We don't need a slow progression about life. Like what God told me in the car, he said, which I don't really like, but I get it. It was, I'm giving you grace, I'm not giving you time. And I was like, okay, well, you got to break that one down, because I know what it means, but I don't really like the way you said it. So if there's another version of this, you have. And then, of course, the next Bible study, I think the next morning, it was this verse of you got to pick up your cross. And then this verse, this change has to happen. And this story about this changing. And I was like, all right, I get it. We're done with that. Can I get a new Bible study, please? And I'm kind of just picking random ones in the Bible app to hopefully find an answer. And they're all the same. I was starting to get mad, and I think the Bible app was setting me up. But they're not. It just happened to work out that way. I was like, this algorithm sucks, dude. Like, why is God doing this to me right now? I said, I get it. But not only this month, but the next 11 months. How can you be more all in for God? Is there a way that you could get more curious about God than critical about God? Can you be curious about people around you that don't believe what you believe instead of being so critical about them? Okay, they're LGBT, whatever. Oh, they do pornography. Okay, yeah, you could be critical all you want. That's not going to get them any closer to God than they actually are. Can we be curious and compassionate about everybody else around us this year? Can we be curious and compassionate towards ourselves? Can we stop being so critical? And this is more for me than you, but if you enjoy it also, be nice to yourself. Like, don't be such a negative Nancy in your car alone at night about every wrong decision you've made for the last 24 hours. No one repeat that, but I am being honest right now. Stop being so mean to yourself. Like, there is grace about it. Like, God told me he's given me a lot of grace. The other part of that is just he's not giving me time to figure this out. He needs me to figure this out now. So whatever the all-in for me looks like, it's figuring out what's going on in here, because he needs me to do things this way. And if this is messed up, it's going to ruin the filter of everything else going to everybody else. And the next 11 months, you don't wait 11 months. So like, example for our work, we have these goals, we have budget meetings, blah, blah, blah. We want to do this, X, Y, Z. actually today we found out that we could hit our goal before February ends. And it's just things switch and they're on, and all of a sudden you got to go now. You got to make changes quick. We didn't have time to prepare for this budget meeting. Like, we didn't expect us to meet any quota anytime soon. It was just a yearly goal, and we just met it. We're not ready to meet it. We don't have things in place to go this fast, but the opportunity just showed up. We have to move quick. Things have to happen. You got to get going. You got to figure it out, because when God says go, or he blinds you, he's not blinding you to give you time to figure it out. He says the second you open your eyes, it's game on. The pavement, your tires hit the road, you got to go. This is, I feel like for pretty most Christians right now, everyone's very passive. They want to be the nice person and like not push boundaries or not pursue God too much because it makes you look like a nut job, or not use their gifts and speak in tongues or pray over people because it's too weird on social media. It doesn't feel right. When you need the exact opposite right now, I think. Especially nowadays when there's nothing that's making sense, we should at least cling to something that does. And even if the Bible totally doesn't make sense to you, just like he told Saul, it's fine, dude, I'll deal with it later. You don't have to figure this out right now. I didn't ask you to figure this out right now. Like, he told me, like, John, I'm not asking you to figure out your mental issues. I just need you to go. We'll talk about it later, but I need you to actually commit to doing something. Just like if you feel this calling on your life, he's not waiting for you to feel good about it. He's not waiting for you to even be the perfect person. He didn't wait for Saul to be some great theologian. He took the murderer and said, now, this is going to be weird, but I need you to just go now. This is your time's now. There's no wait. I need you to act now. So if you want to go all in this year, start by just letting it all out to God and actually being honest for once. And just be real. Just be honest to people. Find someone to mentor you. Find someone to be open with. It's not going to be easy or comfortable. But the answer I got from one of my mentors didn't come from a comfortable conversation. It came from just being open and honest about how everything I was feeling, and that answer came out. Turns out it was one of the answers I needed. And I wouldn't have got there unless I was just all open about everything that I was going with. Sometimes the hardest part about picking up a call for God is listening to the voicemails left by everybody else around you. You have to learn how to delete these things people are saying about you. It's okay if you were this person yesterday, or, oh, you judge people too quick. Well, I'm not judging people today. Maybe I'm changing, all right? And you just have to get with the new me now. Stop assuming that people's perception of you is how you're supposed to be from now on. It's, if God calls you to be something today, be that person today. Don't wait for people's perception to change about you. Everyone thought Paul was a freak after he started talking about God. I wasn't there in any of the synagogues when he started talking, but I guarantee there was a few side eyes and questions about, who is this guy think he is? And God didn't ask about anybody else's opinion other than Saul's yes. He needed Saul to say, I'm all in, and then he made all of it make sense. And it might not have been fast, but Paul allowed it because he said yes in his own weird way. He had this blind, I guess, obedience. And blind, funny. Okay, maybe it's funny for me. My bad. And he held fast for, which is a word that phrase for some reason kept like ringing in my brain. So I looked up scriptures that had hold fast in it. And in Hebrews 10:23, which was up there, and I'm glad you took it off because it was going to steal my thunder. At some point, we'll get Hebrews 10:23. No, it's all right. There's a lot of good conversations that go on back there. It's great stuff. But Hebrews 10:23, it says, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, without falling off track. For he who promised is faithful. And so hold fast. I do this thing where I enjoy looking things up in their original language, in the Greek or Hebrew. For some reason, that makes me enjoy the Bible a lot more. It helps me understand it. It helps me really appreciate all this intricate, crazy web of 66 books that all work together somehow. It really makes sense when you break down the words and not just what you saw on Facebook. Look this stuff up. But for hold fast in the Greek, there's a few translations depending on the context of this. And katekcho. I don't speak Greek, so stay with me. It means hold firmly or restrain. Antecho or antecho, it means to cling to or devoted to. Apeco or epecho means pay attention or hold on to. And I like how all three of those meanings and or definitions, they say restrain yourself from falling off this. Hold on to this when it feels like you're slipping. Pay attention to it. It might not mean you have to hold on to anything, but your awareness of, okay, maybe I have to pay attention to this. And in this verse, let us pay attention. Let us cling on. Let us restrain ourselves. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. This is going to be another crazy year. It's already starting off super calm and easy, and there's nothing happening in the world right now. But if there were to be, there would be some Christians wavering right now, especially the fence line ones that they know about Jesus, but they don't know Jesus at all. They went to a cool conference and saw the lights, and the speaker was like, they made them tingle on their arms with whatever motivational words. That's all the Jesus they know. And for us, if we waver in any way, they're going to see our flagpoles teetering one way and say, oh, well, if they're teetering, it's not worth it. Why would I invest all the time in getting close to this guy they don't even believe? And so if the church starts wavering in any way, you think we're making disciples? There's 0% chance, which, by the way, that's Jesus' job. We could just talk about Jesus. Don't try and be Jesus for him. You just preach Jesus and be Jesus as much as you can, and then it's get them to the meeting with Jesus. Then he could talk to them. Because in that, it didn't say Paul was led to Christ by a sermon he heard at a synagogue. It was God spoke directly to Paul. It's like God and Jesus spoke directly to you guys at some point, which is why you're still on this journey and you're holding fast with him. Get people to that meeting. And the only way they're going to get there is if they see you acting like that, or they see you in the midst of adversity or media or political this, not wavering with what the book says. And another thing I found interesting that's more so a verse that not only I want to like have memorized that in the back of my head for whenever I deal with stuff, but it is something that I think is important for Christians now. It's you got to be a doer. In James 1:22, it says, "But be doers of the word." In James 1:22, sometime this year, yes, it says, "But be doers of the word, and not only hearers." Don't just sit here and listen to me or Pastor Adam or Pastor Jessica or Pastor Hannah or Pastor Isaac. Don't just hear what we say and then go home and then bank on it that you're going to be a better person in life. Be doers of it. Take whatever someone says up here. Don't take everything I say. Take it with a grain of salt. But everybody else, listen to what they're saying and go do something in life about it. Go be something out there. This is great that we all get together on Wednesdays and Sundays and Easter when all the pretend Christians come out of nowhere and everywhere else. Like, that's cool. It's awesome. It fills seats, but it's pointless. The disciples didn't die in a synagogue. They died doing things outside. They died on missions. They died preaching the word to people that hate everything about them. That's what they did. That's how they died. And if you're scared to go talk to somebody or be a light to them because you're scared of their opinions, well, then maybe you're not as all in as the disciples were, because those dudes really didn't care about anything. They didn't care about repercussions of words they were saying. They just knew this is true, that guy is real, and I'm going to tell you about him. That's exactly how the disciples work, and that's how Christian we should be. We shouldn't make this about anything else other than book real, he's real, I just want to tell you about how real he is. And we should leave it at that. That's I do talk about this stuff with people. It's funny, I talk about this stuff more than I have it figured out myself sometimes. But this isn't this is a familiar conversation I've had with others. It's just until recently I've actually had to deal with it. So I've heard a lot of excuses of why people can't change for God along their whatever journey. It's I've been sinning for too long, or I'm still with this ex, and it's not gonna be comfortable because they're not comfortable with Christ. It's hard for me to really get off this drug because it makes me feel so happy. Or, oh, dude, have you met this girl I'm with? It's so easy. I don't know. I feel like if I were to give my life to Christ now, I would ruin our relationship. And I'm like, what? The one with sex? That really? All right, yeah, sure. Ruin that one then, I guess. But I get all these excuses from people that why they're not qualified enough to follow God all of a sudden. I was like, dude, you got to read the book, because that dude Paul was not qualified in any single way. He's way worse than you, trust me. Some people I've met, they're pretty on par with Paul, but for the most part, you're probably not going to outdo Paul in messing up or singing against the church. I don't think anybody in here is going house to house killing Christians. And if you are, yeah, good for you, I guess. Jesus loves you. But for everyone else with all these excuses, it's like, it's impossible to have so many excuses if you've actually read the book. The people that I've noticed have the most complaints about God, or aren't as sure about God, or not feeling the spiritual connection with God, it's because you just don't read the book. There's so many answers if you just opened it and read it. Your anxiety and your self-diagnosed depression, it goes away. You're making this fake facade of life up, and it's like, well, it's pretty easy. Just like Paul, God said, do this, keep going, I'll explain later. It's not going to make sense, but it's okay. Just have faith in me. And most people can't hold fast in that truth. They can't. They lose it because their life doesn't make sense, or they just got hit with a tax bill that's $15,000 to $40,000, and it's hard to hold fast when you get hit with stuff like that. But the more you complain about God, I guarantee you, you're probably not in your word as much as you think, or you're not as all in as you think. The disciples weren't complaining that they were getting stoned. They were just like, yeah, this sucks, but this is what the guy wanted, so we're just going to keep doing it. There wasn't a complaint with it. They didn't write about all their sorrows and woes. Luke and everybody, and Peter and John, they just kept talking about Jesus this entire time. Yeah, they were going through stuff. That's fine. They acknowledged some of it. But overall, they just said, I have to do what God said, regardless of what people think about me or what I'm doing. And then if we go to Colossians 1:21-22, I promise you this is the last scripture. So if you're tired of keeping up, congratulations. You made it to the end. It says, Colossians 1:21-22, it says, and you who once were alienated and enemies in your own mind, not the world's, but in your mind, by wicked works that you did, you've made an enemy of yourself. This is once you. It says, yet now he, God, has reconciled, 22, in the body of his flesh through death to present you holy, blameless, and above reproach in his sight. Sweet, you messed up. If you read the book, it says it's fine. He doesn't really care because he died for that. He knew that about you. You didn't surprise God with a new sin. He knew that. And every time you start feeling that way, go back to these verses. Go back to the promise that, yeah, I feel like I was this, but God loves me. He's going to make me blameless. He's going to make me holy in his sight, and I get to do what he wants going forward. But the more you stick with what was, you can't be with what God needs you to be in the future. And you got to stay connected with God. If you want to be all in, you can't, just like gamblers, if you go all in, you can't leave the table. Just when you push your chips in, you're locked into that moment. There is no getting out of this moment when you push your chips in. I don't know if many of you gambled, but I think I lost $20 once, and I've never done it again. I can't. Losing is, like I said, tough for me. So, but when you do go all in, you push your chips in, and then you just wait for the outcome. You can't escape this moment. Because if you leave, it's fine. The house is just going to take your money. There is no like loophole where you get to keep playing after 40 minutes of walking away. Just like your calling or your time in life to do something, it might not always be there. God's just going to use someone else to do the same job he needs in the same area. He'd really like to use you. That's why he made you the way you are and how you think and everything else. But you can't walk away from the table while going all in. In March, when you lose all of your fitness goals and life goals and journaling, because it's about the time, 3 months, people can't take it. So when you get back to that point, don't waver from God because life got hard all of a sudden. You got to stay at the table. You said you were going to be all in. I didn't say you were going to be all in. I didn't write your 5 things. Whatever those 5 things are, don't give up in March because they got a little bit rough in March or April or May. That's the point. They are going to get hard. It is going to get rough. You're going to go through your seasons of Paul's, but don't think you're a Judas because you had Peter moments. You could still be someone good in life no matter what you've done in life. someone I always like to, I always relate to this. I think about it a lot in my brain because I think it relates to staying connected to the Word as much as you can. And it's actually Sam's phone. He's finally here so I can reference him. So Sam has a bad phone. It just doesn't charge for whatever reason, and he needs this source to keep it charged. It's not, the charging port doesn't work, but these power banks do. They work really well. So for Sam, he needs to charge his phone all the time. If he doesn't charge it, it dies pretty quick. If he's out for too long, he needs multiple chargers. He needs another pick-me-up. The phone can't stay alive. And so at one point, we were all kind of making fun of him for it, like, get a new phone. But after a while, in one of the car thoughts, I was sitting there, I was like, dude, I'm actually just as bad as him because I let myself, like, die out spiritually so quick sometimes because I don't read the book every day. I don't stay as connected as I think I do. I listen to one Bethel song, and I think that's good enough for the next 2 months. Okay, guys, I used to. All right, I'm changed now. Relax. But it does. If you don't stay consistently in your word, and you're not curious about everything in here, if you claim you have the Bible all figured out and you're good to go, good for you. I'm glad you're a super Christian. But for everybody else on the planet, we don't. And the second you start losing curiosity and investing in your relationship with God, the quicker you're going to start getting mad at everybody else, or mad at the world, or mad at the blue people or the red people, or this federal this, or the cop this. You're going to start getting mad at everything else because you're so disconnected from the one thing that actually is honest and makes sense, which is these words. If you stay away from these words, you're going to carry the weight of every other word that you see on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Those are the words you're going to care about all of a sudden. It's not what Jesus said. It's, oh, what this blog post someone said about what's happening over here in this state. It's, you lose track of what's true. You start loving less. You start understanding less. You start becoming less compassionate. You start complaining about your life and your circumstances more, when I don't genuinely think you have enough to complain about, because the disciples went through a little bit more than you did. You think you have a bad life. It's really good if you want to go just break your life down. It is not as bad as anything those guys went through preaching God's word. I promise you, go line for line. You didn't go through Job's season. You could claim, oh, I'm in my Job season. You didn't go through Job season. You just had a boyfriend break up with you. You're not going through a Job season. You're just emotional right now. It's fine. It gets better. But one thing that I do find interesting about, back to Sam's phone, and it's the last thing, sometimes it gets disconnected, not because of the charge, but because the environment he's in. So somewhere by his house, the connection just goes blank. Anytime we're on the phone with him for work, as a friend, anything else, you can't talk to this guy. You know when he's home because the phone cuts out. But just like some of us, sometimes when we get, how many what? Sam, what phone model do you have? This is on live forever, so it's the 12. Okay, so we're not on 12. If you know anything about Apples, we're a little ahead of that. Like I said, his phone, it disconnects. And so sometimes in our walk with Christ, we spend too much time in certain environments. It disconnects us from God. It's fine. It's natural. It's okay. You're not going to really feel like preaching the word or singing a Bethel song at a nightclub. That's just an environment that doesn't produce that feeling. So the longer you're in these environments for too long and you get absorbed by it with no other Starlink in your mind or heart, it's going to be really hard to communicate with God. The longer you stay in these dark valleys or mountains that you drove into, just like you didn't have to, but you drove into this valley, you drove into this mountain with bad cell service, yeah, it's going to be hard to talk to God in that moment. We have to also be, it's a conscious choice of where we're going in life. Yes, it said to go preach the word, go to everybody, regardless of what they're doing, right? But if you start becoming your environment, it's going to be hard to stay charged as long as you can. If you're not consistently reading your Bible or in your word, not just all in like you do this for an aesthetic look and you highlight pretty, but if your pages aren't ripping because you're trying to figure this stuff out, you're going to be super surprised how fast you get disconnected in a few months. Because when we move, and if anybody here and the leadership is disconnected from anything, we're going to lose what makes us us over there. Because we chose to unplug ourselves because we allowed the move or the stress or the people or the losing the furniture. Or when we take all the stage lights down, is your Christian faith gonna dwindle away because you don't have lights during worship? There's gonna be so many things you could easily point to and blame, but you have to stay rooted in something when so many things are changing. And I guess this is more a reminder for me, but when you, just like Paul, when you start moving differently for God, you are going to get a lot of different looks by everybody else. People aren't going to really understand why all of a sudden you're on fire for God, or you're reading your word, or you're not going out with them as much, or you're saying this word less, or you don't like every post that they repost all of a sudden, or you're restraining yourself in arguments. No one's going to really understand it. They're going to say, oh, aren't you the person that normally says something, or you're the funny person, or you're the one that always gets a zinger comment in. Well, maybe it's time for you to just hold back. And if you're in that season where you feel like you need to change, and you change now, and you say you're all in, and you say you want to do this God thing, well, then start just doing it. People are going to think whatever they think. They think about you now as a certain way. Why not change it for the better? And then if you really, really care about people's opinions, it takes time to change someone's opinion of you. You have to give people evidence for them to believe you are who you say you are. Like Jesus gave 1 million pieces of evidence as his time here to say, no, that's Jesus. That's the guy. And sometimes we don't give people enough of those opportunities. We give them a Sunday of us, and then we act Monday through Thursday us, and then we get the Thursday, Friday us, and then they see the Saturday us. But we only portray the Sunday us occasionally. A challenge for the rest of the year, if you do want to do this, is try to be the Sunday happy you, or in my case, the sleepy half Sunday, because I'm exhausted sometimes on Sundays. But be the Sunday you that's smiley, or when someone says, how are you going, you give the Christian, I'm good answer, or you shake their hand and, life is great. And try to be that person on Friday night when you're out with everybody having drinks and they're like, oh, what do you think about this? Or look at this post right here. Can you be the same person that you are on Sundays in front of everybody here? Can you be that person then? Because anybody could really know about Jesus. The devil knows about Jesus. He actually knows a lot more than you do. He was up there at one point. We were never up there like that. We weren't musical angels. Sam might be. He plays the cajon now, so Sam is really good at making good music. But anybody can know about Jesus. Historically, you can know about Jesus. Atheists know about Jesus. There's a lot of people who confirm that dude was a real person, faith or not. That was a real person, but few people have a connection where Jesus gets to know them. And you can't get to know anybody unless you invest all in on them. It's hard to have a good marriage unless you're invested all in on the marriage. You can't be half in a marriage and then half on Tinder. It doesn't work. I haven't heard of it working, and if it does, let me know the link, because that makes no sense. I'd like to argue that one. Just like anything, you want to be good in sports, you want to be good in anything. Be all in. Choose to make that choice. Hold fast on to, even if you don't know the whole Bible, hold on to the few truths that you have. Because eventually God will make it make sense, whether you think it makes sense now or not. And that's really all I had. That's my Bible study. This was my personal Bible study that I wanted to share with you guys. And as much as it is for me, I hope you get something from this. I hope you at least get to go home and think about some of these things. Like, what does it mean to be all in? Am I really all in? Am I willing to go to these certain points? Take the next few weeks before the year really gets going and just self-reflect for a little bit. That's all the challenge is. There's no spiritual condemnation if you don't have the answer now. But truly just look in the mirror and ask these questions. What is it going to take for me to get to where I know I need to be? And if I make the change today, how much, not that you're going to care about what other people think, but how much is that not going to be a factor? Don't worry about what other people are claiming that you are along the way. And like I said, I'm just telling this to myself. So when I watch this back, I could say, oh, at one point I did believe in that. Let's try this again. So that is it, everybody. Thank you for surviving all of the scriptures and everything else. But go ahead, bow your head and close your eyes, and we'll do a quick prayer out. So, God, thank you for being very blunt and honest with me so that I could be open and honest with everybody else. I hope everybody at whether it's tonight, the end of this week, the end of this month, they get to have a moment where they get to be just real with you. And they get to be honest and open and leave everything out on the table so you give all back to them. Don't let people dwell on the things they've been, the things they used to do, the things they used to say, and let them believe in the truth and the love and the light that you called them to be going forward. Thank you for everything you're doing for us. Thank you for everything you're going to do this year for us. And in everything we do, we will trust in you. In your name we pray. Amen. Sweet. So I don't do the outros too much. So I'll see you guys Sunday. Katinas are going to be here on the 8th. And have a good night.